This is the Tropic Zone. I am your host, Andrew Skerritt. Today on the Tropic Zone, my guest is Herman Francis, founder and director of the Small Beginnings Youth Symphony Orchestra in Montserrat. Herman, welcome to the Tropic Zone.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here talking to you, Andrew. You know, we've gone a long way back, and it's good to have you in Montserrat and be talking to you at this time.
Thank you. And one of the reasons why I wanted us to talk today was I attended a recent concert of the Small Beginnings Youth Symphony Orchestra, and we've heard about youth symphony orchestras in places like Venezuela and Cuba, and youth symphony orchestras are national treasures in those countries. Tell me, what was your inspiration for beginning this enterprise?
Well, about 20 years ago, I would say that I actually started. I was a primary school teacher, and a number of instruments came to this school, and I began on a voluntary basis to teach children to play music. I'm not a professional musician in terms of training, but I continued to, read and learn, and God gave me the inspiration, so I continued to teach children. This emerged into children playing as a group, and so I've put together bands that have backed up the junior calypso competition. That's with guitars and the typical calypso band, drums and so on. And I've put together marching bands. We did the Queen's birthday parade at one point. We did the memorial services and so. And as time goes on, the symphony orchestra sort of emerged based on the instruments that have been taught and the interest. And I must say that we also had the benefit of having some musicians, some of them Juilliard trained, came to Montserrat and did some workshop with my students. And then there's a Sir George Martin project, which was to send a musician to Montserrat, and some of them benefited from training from that. But I was the one who tried and keep them together. And so several years later, the whole idea of a symphony orchestra emerged.
Thank you for sharing that, because one year I came to Montserrat and went to Salem Methodist Church, and the piano was being played by a white expatriate, and she played, but clearly she was not an expert. And I worried that there would come a time when there was going to be no one who was trained locally to play piano, because in the past we had people who offered piano lessons at home, and it was part of our culture. But with the Volcano and the mass exodus, that changed. And so when I saw the symphony orchestra, I said, you saw the same thing and you responded to it, and I think I commend you for that.
Well, I tell you what, I think several years ago we were actually standing in St. John's. I remember a number of us. I remember at the Calypsonian Attacker was one. And we thought that, we don't even, most of the guitarists playing in bands and so on, that they are a certain age and we don't have any young people actually coming up playing music. So that was one of the inspirations, that somebody had to do something about it. And it was way back then that I took up the challenge.
You mentioned Sir George Martin and his foundation. Talk about
Sir George Martin. He took an interest in Montserrat. He was involved with the A Studio, that a number of professional recording artists came to Montserrat. He was involved with the construction of the Cultural Center. And after he passed, his foundation, one of the things that they wanted to do was to continue the connection with Montserrat. And so they every 2 years or so they will send a musician here. The program has stopped now, but that was one of the things that they did, and of course we benefited from that.
You sing calypso. You've been involved with the culture for years. But do you play any instruments yourself?
I play a little bit of guitar and a little bit of keyboard. The other instruments, I don't play them, but I teach them. People say you don't play them, but you teach them. It's just that I study music a lot, and do a lot of reading, I watch a lot of videos and so on. And so I'm able, and most musicians would understand this, that I'm able to explain and impart the knowledge, even though I'm not a violinist or saxophonist, whatever it is. I'm still able to help them with that.
How did you go about recruiting students for the project?
Well, one of the things I've been doing for years is having music workshops during the school breaks. Like in a couple of weeks, I'll be having an Easter music workshop, and I've had several summer music workshops, and I would invite parents via radio to send their children. And then following the workshop, which would be 2 or 3 weeks, after that, the children would continue to come like on a weekly basis. Sometimes, depending on what we're doing, we might need to come twice a week, and they continue. Those, of course, like everything else, there are those who, after the workshop, they disappear. But most of them would continue to come, and so because the parents and themselves, I hope, would want to develop their own skill, and that's basically how we recruit.
And how many students do you typically part of the orchestra? And by the way, and so when was your first performance?
Okay, the Youth Symphony Orchestra would be about 27 students at the moment. But I want to say that that's not the entire Small Beginnings Music Project. The Small Beginnings Music Project, like I said, started several years ago, and the Youth Symphony Orchestra evolved. We have had marching bands, we have had combo bands, we have had drumming groups, and so on. And so apart from those who actually play in the Youth Symphony Orchestra, there are other musicians involved as well. What was the other part of the question?
No, I think the question was about how many students, and I'm guilty of asking too many questions.
Yeah, that's okay. Yes. So right now they're like the concert that we just had was 27 years, and I remember the other part of the question was, when did we start? The first symphony orchestra concert was in 2019, just before the pandemic. We had 2 that year, one during the St. Patrick's season and one during the Christmas season. And of course, for pandemic reasons, we had not had any again until last December 2022, and then another one again in March 2023.
Were you able to practice at all during the pandemic?
Yes, but very sporadic. It was we started, stop, a whole lot. Yes, so it was good that we had got a good period of time that we were able to put together a concert in the end. Yeah.
We're talking to Herman Francis, founder of the Small Beginnings Youth Symphony Orchestra in Montserrat. And Herman Francis is a former classmate at the Montserrat Secondary School. He's a calypsonian. He's a cultural activist, and he is one of those for whom Montserrat will always be home. Montserrat, and as part of this series, we're talking about home and the meaning of home, and why some people leave, why some people stay. And Herman is one of those who stayed, and he's been named a member of the British Empire. For all his for his cultural work. So his contributions have not gone unnoticed, at least in London. You mentioned that parents, the involvement of parents in this project. How key is it to get the parent buy-in for kids learning music?
Yeah, it's absolutely important. It's crucial. It cannot be overstated. You see, one of the things that, and probably one of the drawbacks and one of the concerns that I always have, is that music in our community is sort of thought of as a lesser subject, if you want to call it that, than, say, mathematics or science or literature or whatever. And of course, we've had the problem where children will be doing really well in music, and then the parents would pull them out because, it's exam time or it's time to study, or they have reached third form, or they have reached grade 6 and they need to focus more on their lesson. And that's a major concern because studies have shown that children who excel in music, or persons who excel in music, they also excel in every other subject area. And then there would be sometimes some of the parents would use pulling them out of music as a punishment, well, he's grounded or she's grounded because he's not behaving himself, or he's not doing well in his work, not getting the kind of grades and so on. And I think it's bad when children are aimed to look at music like that. There sometimes music also looked at as like even within the education system, you might have teachers involved and so on, and they would say, this child doesn't seem to be able to do anything else. Why don't you send him to Mr. Francis? Let him get to learn something. So like musicians are the failures, are the ones who cannot excel in anything else. Of course, this is not the case. You'll find that the top students in music are the top students in everything else. So yeah, that is one of the concerns, and one of the things that I have had to contend with. Those parents who push their children, they learn more, and some of the parents buy the instruments for their child after they see them doing well and so on. So some of them own their own violins and they own different instruments and so on. The thing about music, I must say too, is that it's a sort of discipline that can be used throughout life. It teaches time management. In that, of course, you're doing the other subject areas. So you have to allocate time for your studies of mathematics or whatever. You have to allocate practice time. You have to allocate time for recreation and so on. So it teaches time management. It teaches responsibility in that you have to take care of the instruments. You don't want your instrument to fall apart, and around here in Montserrat we don't get those kind of instruments that you're playing. It would have to be ordered and cost a lot of money and so on. So in terms of that, it teaches you to be disciplined in the sense that even when you don't feel like practicing, something is coming up, you have a performance, you still have to go and practice. So that sort of determination and so on. All these are life skills that you need not only in music but in everyday life. So it's a sort of discipline, it's a sort of time management, self-control and so on that you're developing when you learn to play music.
Thanks for sharing that, Herman. Again, let me reintroduce you. I'm talking to Herman Francis. He's the founder and the director of the Small Beginnings Youth Symphony Orchestra in Montserrat. And we're talking about the Small Beginnings project and what's the goal? Is it to save music in Montserrat, to make sure there's always music in Montserrat? What is the big goal? What's the dream?
Well, put it this way, I do have a dream of seeing some of these musicians probably switch on my television one day and look and see, they used to be my student, look at him or her now. But even if you don't reach that far, and even if one does not become a professional violinist or professional saxophonist or whatever it is, I usually tell them, President Clinton plays the saxophone. And
he won him some votes.
yes, right. So I would use people, around here. We cricket is our main sport, and Kurt Gamble is a bassman, Richard Richardson is a guitarist. And I would tell them like that, so you can excel in sport and still excel in music. You can necessarily be one-dimensional. So even if you become a doctor, and you can go home in the evening and get on the piano and play some music, it's a part of, being a well-rounded person and help you to relax and wind down as well. So yes, I'm looking for the professionals who would probably one day do music as part of living, but if you're not gonna make it as your main source of income, it still will be worth it. In that, all of those disciplines that I say, and in that you can also use it. And of course, yes, to provide entertainment for Montserrat, make Montserrat a nice, viable place to live, a nice concert to go to when it's St. Patrick's, when it's Christmas, or whenever there's entertainment anywhere. It's all part of life.
Thank you. But none of this happens if you did not decide to stay in Montserrat. We've had hurricanes and we've had the volcano, and more than half of the population left after the volcano disruption in '97. Why did you stay?
Well, I'm gonna tell you, I've entertained the thought of leaving in all these many years just once. It was one morning, I think it was 1997 or 98, when I got up. I had moved out of my home because I'm from Salem, which is, for those who might be listening, is the most furtherly occupied area.
More southern.
Right. And they had shut us down at one point, evacuated us, so I guess. And the house that I rented further north, I came out and I watched the whole place white. And at that time, we were seeing ash, we were eating ash. I mean, you had to wash your plates because the ash on the plate, and even sometimes the ash on your bed, you lie down and when you get up you actually see your body outline on your bed because the place was so ashy. And I thought to myself, what am I doing here? Maybe it's time for us to leave. I did not dwell on that thought, and it did not last long. And I always maintain that when the last boat is leaving here, when they're closing down the island, I will be the last one to go. I just thought that if people are going to be here, I'm going to be here. There's something about Montserrat I just love, and I thought that I have a contribution to make here. At the height of the volcanic crisis, I was a regular primary school teacher, and I thought I had that contribution to make, although a lot of children were leaving at the time. And of course, yes, I was not into teaching music yet, but I was discovering my different talents and so on. And I just thought that I needed to be here.
Thanks for staying. Coming back to the orchestra, during the concert, you talk about some of the people who have helped you. Yes. You want to talk about some of those people? I know the governor. You mentioned that she was a patriot. I mean, who are some of the people who really helped make what you do possible?
Yes, well, yes, of course. Her Excellency, the governor, and the husband, they've been very supportive. Previous governors have been supportive of the of the program, providing finance. Even staging a show is a pretty costly thing, and I can tell you that the gates do not pay for shows here in Montserrat. No show at all. The gates pay for that, and so I'm thankful to them for that. Like you said, there are a variety of musical instruments, and people have donated them over the years. Most of the people would not wish me to name them. As a matter of fact, most of the people who have contributed instruments and even finance, they wish to remain anonymous. But there's some of them are like expats who have seen what I'm doing. I'm telling you of one lady who was driving along, and when we were doing a workshop, and she pulled in and she watched for a while and she drove away. It so happened that she knew my brother very well, and she sent me a check, and from that every year when she comes to Montserrat, she would give a donation. There is a monstration, and I just, as a matter of fact, I just picked up a flute from him a few minutes ago, because one of the children accidentally broke the flute, and we were talking one evening, and I said that to him, and he brought the flute. And so to all those who have contributed instruments, I'm very thankful. I can tell you that most of the instruments, I actually bought them from my own pocket, because and they're not easy to get around here. I would have to order them. So it's pretty costly. It's a cost. I try to see if I can get successive governments involved in the project and support it. I haven't been successful yet. I'm still optimistic, but I haven't been successful yet. But yes, for fear of calling people's name who I should not have called, I'm just gonna leave it there.
Okay, so there have been people who believe in the project and have stepped forward. Well, let's talk about those who are now hearing about the project for the first time. How can they contribute?
Okay, well, we are always looking for instruments. They can contact me.
Do they have to be new?
No. As a matter of fact, most of our instruments, we got them used. Some of them were the ones that I bought and new, and some people donate new instruments. There was a Rotary club in the UK. Somebody from Montserrat went up and told them about the project, and they sent some used instruments. So the instruments do not have to be new. So we can always do with used instruments. We can do with new instruments as well. And most of the time when we're doing a production, we need we try to uniform ourselves.
Yes, I noticed the uniforms.
Yes, so there's a cost to that as well. So we accept cash donations, or if one gets in contact with me, I can express the need that we are having at that particular time, depending on what we are doing.
Yes, okay. And how do they reach you?
Well, my phone number is 1664-496-7877. 1664-496-QUPS. That's CUPS. That's why.
and is there a website?
We don't have a website. I can be contacted by email as well. It's QUPS@hotmail.com.
And you're on Facebook.
And I'm on Facebook as well as Herman Francis. Yes. So.
And I guess at some point there's going to be a Symphony, New Beginnings Facebook page that people.
Well, there is.
Okay, so people
there's a Small Beginnings Facebook page. It's Small Beginnings. It's a group page. So you can follow us there. We post videos of everything we're doing when we're doing workshops, when we are asking for students who are interested in doing and so on. And you get excerpts of concerts that we do and so on. So yes, we do have a Facebook page.
Absolutely wonderful. Once again, I'm talking to Herman Francis. He's founder and director of the New Beginnings Youth Symphony Orchestra in Montserrat. And he is on a mission to make sure that the sound of music is always alive and well in his homeland, and in a country that's been rocked by mass migrations for one reason or the other throughout our history. Herman is one of the people who've stayed, and his efforts have been recognized by the British government, by the Queen. He's a member of the MBE. Yes. Herman Francis MBE.
Yes, I usually say that the Queen, the late Queen, she never knew me, so I always accept my MBE from the people of Montserrat, bestowed upon me by the Queen.
Yes. And well deserved. So, is there anything else you want to say before we wrap?
Just to say thanks to you, Andrew, for giving me the opportunity to talk about the orchestra, and just to say that if you're ever in Montserrat, that come and check me out, find me. Montserrat is the easiest place to find people, and any contribution that you can make, anyway you can help me to promote music on Montserrat. I do not only do the symphony orchestra. I also do each of the schools. I do a steel band group in the afternoons, and all that is voluntary. I do not get a salary from the government or anything like that. So anyway, that anyone can assist, I appreciate that, and I'm just thankful for the opportunity to talk about the project and be part of your podcast.
Well, thanks, and I was really inspired when I heard of your work, and